Yeah, we're good.
All right. We're rolling, rock and rolling. All right, so welcome to the Set Free Speech Podcast. Welcome back. The show where faith, recovery, and personal growth intersect. I'm your host, Eli Rivera, with your co-host, Anthony Hinojosa, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this journey of transformation, spiritual discovery, and life on life's terms. Yes. So, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good. A little groggy today.
Yes.
It's one of those, just chill kind of days. I do a lot of work in general, so there's a couple days where it hits me a little harder than others.
Yes.
And so, today's been one of those just kind of chill, groggy days, but otherwise, really great. How about you? How are you doing?
Man, I was telling you offline, this has not been a fun, easy week for me.
Yeah.
I'm feeling some type of way, but I can't identify what it is. It's just not, I'm not vibrating at the energy or the frequency that I like to vibrate at.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling life on life's terms, and I'm like mad at her. You know what I mean? But, we're going to be talking about stuff like that. I have my journal here from today in class, and I'm going to share the things that were pissing me off in class. They're going to be funny, some are going to be stupid, and then I'm going to share with you what I wrote that I was thankful for.
Okay.
We're going to talk about, we're just going to shoot the shit today. We're going to talk, you and I, we're going to discuss what we're going through in life. What are we working on, really?
Yeah.
Not just with the podcast, but in life. Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're working on right now? What is it that you do for work that has you groggy,
Yeah.
Like what's Anthony doing right now?
Okay, well, my job is relatively similar to everything else in my life. So I don't have this what I do for work versus what I do outside of work, because generally speaking, or at least getting to the core of what it is that I do, I talk to people.
Yeah.
I talk to them about their lives, and I try to help people out as best I can about getting them to the next stage of wherever it is that they're going. So like when it comes down to my work, I work at a recovery center here at Liftoff Recovery, and a big chunk of my job is just sitting behind a computer and making sure things are organized, if you would, and moving in the right direction. But another gigantic chunk of my job is kind of like counseling, talking to people, hearing people out, giving them good life advice. I run groups as well, just like getting them to understand certain concepts or things in life. So I have slideshows and worksheets, and just like getting them engaged with certain concepts, and a lot of life advice things, if you would. So then outside of that, my next thing in line that I really kind of take the time to exist in is me being one of the pastors at Set Free Anaheim, the Magic House. So me doing that is more of the same, of me being around people and giving them life advice and trying to help them out, going in a direction that would make sense for them. And so, it's just a lot of that. And so, as you would imagine, anybody who's worked in the field of recovery at the least, which I think a lot of people in our audience would understand this a little bit, is that you can get to a point to where you're emotionally drained out because you have to be able to be there for other people and take on what it is that they're going through and try to help them go through that with the empathy or compassion that you have. And so you can get to a point to where it kind of drains you out. And I wouldn't say I'm drained out. It's more so, as of right now, as much as I am just like you need to make sure you take some time to say, like, take a breath, remember, just take a step back to be able to see kind of like what's happening from a bird's eye view, and then from that point you can appreciate it. But that's what I do a lot. So a lot of my week is usually leaning into what I can do for work and how I can teach people for my job. But then outside of that is Bible. I do a Bible study, and I do a lesson on Fridays. And so be doing a Bible study on Monday and doing lessons on Fridays requires for me to prepare for that too. So it's a lot of people stuff. So I have to take on how people can be people, and that seems to be the only thing in my life that irritates me, is people being people.
Yeah. No, and you're leaving out a lot of the other things that you do. You help with the with the Magic House events on Sundays. You're like the DJ, the sound engineer, you know what I mean? The camera engineer.
Sure.
You also do Bible studies Tuesdays. So you're running all these things. I actually commend you for that.
Sure, thank you.
I really do understand how much energy that takes, right? And like the other day we went to a camp for my birthday. There was a Sober Fest with Taste Recovery.
Yeah.
And the people who did the Reiki and the breathwork techniques, after one day, after just doing it one time for a big group, they were like, we have to take a day off because it takes a lot of energy out of you.
Yeah.
Right. So understanding like that it does drain you. And then the difference between rest and complacency, that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing.
I've had that conversation with plenty of people about there's a difference between complacency and what was the word? It is pretty much content.
Content.
The difference between content and complacency, because content takes a lot of work to be content, and it is like true peace. True peace, like you can sit there, be content with what it is you have, even if it's very little, and then be at peace with that.
Right.
Be like, it's good. You don't feel guilty about sitting there, right?
Yeah.
Complacency is a different feeling. That's the feeling of like, I don't have a lot, and I don't want to work for more than what I have. And you do definitely have a slice of guilt that's in there as well. And it's more of like a defense that you have to have when talking to people about where it is you are in your life. But yeah, you're right. There is definitely a difference between complacency, which is usually laziness, and content, which is a lot of work in building who it is that you are and getting to a point to where you are at peace with what it is that you have and you actually like that. But it's difficult to be in that place, because that's what we're all fighting for, I think, for the most part, especially those that are actively working against your own laziness. And so a lot of people in recovery are in that stage where they're actively fighting against their laziness. And so when they've gotten to a point to where they have a couple things that they can juggle out, job, school, whatever it is, when they start juggling that stuff out, it is the fight of content. It is fighting for peace by that point. And a lot of the times you end up kind of forgetting, or not forgetting, you end up losing the flavor of what it means to gain content. It's almost like, what am I doing here again? Like, why am I doing this again? You may not say that out loud, but that's the feeling. The feeling is like, I'm starting to forget the reason as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's more frustrating than it is peaceful. And that's when the point where you start, questioning, like, why am I here? And why am I so irritable and discontent?
Right. That's literally, bro, that's what that's not exactly what I'm going through, but I am noticing the feelings much more like aggressive. They're attacking me much more aggressively. Like, and I didn't, so let me give you an example. And I was trying to track this down as I was driving here today. I was like, what is it that's happening? Like, first and foremost, when we're in addiction, we're so impulsive, right? Right. So whatever we want, we get that day, and if we don't, we throw a bitch fit. Yeah. Right? Typically, it's how it goes. Yeah. That's how I was. And so my timeline when I was in my addiction for life was much smaller. What I mean by that is I wasn't looking at a 10-year horizon or a 50-year. I wasn't looking macro. I was looking micro. I was looking at, what am I doing in the next 4 hours? How can I reach out to someone to get them to take me to the bar so that we can go on and run amok for 3 days, right? How can I get there? Those were the little goals in life. Now, I'm out of my addiction. I have to start to view the world in a 10-year horizon, 15, 20, 30-year horizon, but I still have the tendencies that I want everything fast and now. Yeah, right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to build a business. Why don't I have 17 clients already? Right. You're like, dude, it's been 2 weeks. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I'm gonna learn AI. Why don't I know everything about AI? Yeah. Well, dude, you just started researching it like a month ago. So I have to calm the F down. Yeah. And that is it's very hard. Yes, it is. And then not only that, because of this, because I have it written right here, but because of the impatience, then I feel like I am complacent if I'm not driving with aggressiveness towards the goal. Yeah. And if I'm slowing down, or if I even take one break, I feel bad for myself. And then on top of me feeling bad for myself, let me give you an example. I got a call the other day. And this is why I understand people in recovery like myself. I understand kind of what you're going through, okay? Not for the most part, but I understand this part. We're trying to work on ourselves, okay? We already know that we kind of made bad decisions in the past, okay? Now I'm trying to do it for myself, and then I have my family calling me saying, hey, it's 170 days in. We don't see no ROI. We helped you go to treatment. Sure. We helped you, get your shit together. How come you don't have a job and you're not making money and you're not? It wasn't so aggressive that, but that was the gist of it. The gist of it. So now I'm feeling like shit. Then I get a call from the only people I value their opinion from, and they put some shit on me, dude. It really got to me. But then I talked to my sober coach. He's like, listen, you have to call him back and clear this up, them back, and be like, hey, look, on paper, the ROI is not showing. There's no ROI on paper, but internally, the ROI, we're in the green because I have 173 days sober. Sure. I'm learning about myself. I'm in sobriety. I'm in school. I'm in a sober living. And so if you're out there and you're dealing with the stresses of not only feeling like you're not where you want to be, I understand. Just know that the ROI is prevalent if you have sobriety. Even if you have 1 hour sobriety, right? That is a life beyond my wildest dreams, like it says in the book, because my wildest dream was to get sober for more than 24 hours, right? So I have already reached a life beyond my wildest dreams. But anyways, man, there's so much to tackle on this podcast, but shoot, it's just driving me nuts.
I like that because what you end up talking about, you get on this concept of being impatient about what it looks like to have an ROI. Yeah. Because that's what it's about. It's about this idea that you do put an investment in and you're sitting there tapping your finger and you're staring at the level, then you're saying, like, is it going up? Is it going down? What's happening with this? And you get impatient about that. And it's hilarious because as you describe some people that are around you, they're also looking for ROIs, and sure enough, they're tapping their fingers the exact same way, right? You're looking at the job or opportunities and you're tapping your finger, getting impatient. They're looking at you, tapping their finger, getting impatient. What I end up finding out more than anything is that this is not people in recovery or people that are actually trying to grow themselves. It's literally the whole entire world has one pretty serious problem, which is that we're ridiculously impatient. And so it's a world issue. People that are sober, people that are getting sober, people that have stayed sober have no problem with addiction. We all have the same issue. That's why it's always interesting to hear that story, because that story that you're telling is actually really common. There's a lot of people that fall into they go into rehab and they're making some serious progress. But when they go back home or when they were around their family and their family's talking to them about things, it is like that. It's like, when are you going to get a job? You're like, well, can I get some credit for what it is that I've been doing now? And there's this fine balance that kind of falls in there, which is like, one, you get credit for what you're doing, but you're still encouraged to keep going, because we have a tendency of, when somebody pats us on the back, being able to say that I'm good. Oh, that means that I'm done, right? All right, cool. But then there's the opposite direction, which is that you give me no signs of growth telling me that I'm doing a good job or praise, and I feel discouraged, so then I stop. Both of those is a stop moment. So give me too much praise, I'll stop because I feel like I'm done. If you give me no praise, I'll stop because I feel like I'm not making any progress. And so there's this fine balance that lands in the middle, which is to be able to tell somebody you're doing a great job and I would love to keep seeing you keep going. Right. But not to understand or not to bank on this idea of what that looks like when it comes to time. Because at a certain point, I was just running a group the day with people, with my clients, and the group was about proper expectations. And I told them that you end up finding out more often than not that when you have expectations, any kind of expectations, a positive expectation, I expect them to be there when I said we're going to be there. I expect them to get my back, when things go and fall apart. I expect my paycheck to be there, whatever it is, right? That's a positive expectation. You expect something good to happen. Or a negative expectation. Oh, this is going to be whack. I don't really want to go today. Oh, they're going to be just the same as they always have been. Both of those have a contingency of kind of proving us wrong, right? So when you expect things to go bad and they go great, it's like, what did that prove? That proves that you don't know the future. All right, cool. When things that I expect to be great don't go great and they go bad, what does that mean? That means I don't know the future. Okay, so my next question, after understanding expectations about how the only thing you can about what it is that you control and what you don't, next question was, do you think that expectation and control are in the same category? And the answer should lead you to yes. I am trying to control the world in my head. Because it's not just controlling the world on the outside of making or forcing something to happen, but controlling something inside your mindset. So you think you know the future, you think you know what's going to happen with the things. All right, cool. Take the next step beyond that. Once you understand the expectation and control are in the same category, the next thing after that is to ask your question, well, then what's a healthy expectation? A healthy expectation is to be able to control what you can. What can you control? Control myself. All right, cool. So when, and I told him this too, I said, it's hilarious when you end up finding out the times that you're irritated, the times that you're angry, the times that you're, discontent, it usually is based off of the fact that you expected something to happen and it didn't happen the way you expected it to. Control. You try to control the world one way or another. You're trying to control the time of your success and what it is that you are quote unquote successful. And we can go into a whole entire deep line of what success means. Right. you're trying to control what it looks like to be successful. You cannot be successful unless you're banking on other people's idea of success as well. So you may have an idea of success, right? Is to be able to have these many clients. Okay, that means that you have to control how many clients that you have, which means that you got to control that these people are going to come to you to be able to want to get something. So you're trying to control something you don't control. Same thing with your friends and your family trying to tell you, well, how come you don't have a job yet? They're trying to control something that they don't control. The only thing that you can control is yourself. So if you love the business that you're creating and what you're doing on a daily basis, then it doesn't matter if you have 1 client, 2 clients, no clients, all clients. By a point, you're only controlling yourself. Your expectation is only to yourself to be able to do a job for yourself. So when we start seeing these things come up, we end up always, all of us, always snapping back to this place of I'm trying to control this world around me. And the specific thing I'm trying to control, and this is always a problem, is I'm trying to control time, which is insane. Like the fact that we still think to this day that we can control time, even though over and over and over again, we are not just reminded, but we go through processes in our life where we remind ourselves that I don't control time. I have to be patient. I have to be patient. And what I will say is that even though we know that being patient is like the golden truth for our lives to move forward and give us some sort of peace, that is literally the hardest thing for us to be able to digest.
Yeah, that's not one that I'm gonna digest happily.
No.
I'll throw it up for as long as possible, but I'm really impatiently urgent, right? That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm patient, but I'm always gonna be urgent. But I understand that one. I use the clients as an example, but really what it is financial freedom, and that's even farther.
That's another thing you don't control. That's
right.
Something. It's hilarious. Is like when I had asked that question about what can you expect? Basically, what can you control? It's like, well, I can control my job. It's like that's actually not true. You don't control this economy. This economy, unless you're really naive.
Yeah.
If you paid attention to this economy for the past 30 years alone, you'd find out that the American economy is not as stable as you think that it is, as much as you like it to be. In fact, there's people that end up going into school and they think to themselves that that's the surefire way of being able to be successful. And the fact of the matter is that that's a broken way of looking at things as well. It's because these generations constantly are changing as to what it is that they think that is appropriate for that specific generation. So last generation is always going to somehow affect the next generation in line, and what we do now is going to affect the next generation in line. And chances are it's not going to be for the better. And it's just because the trajectory of America's growth when it comes to economy, when it comes to social connection, things of the sort, it's becoming more isolated and it's becoming more money driven. And so because of that, and also the class system is starting to get really bad. The middle class is starting to fall apart. And so this idea that you can go to school to have a middle class life, is just like that's becoming less and less of an actual option. So where now it's going to be like the rest of the world usually is, people that are poor to people that are rich and almost nothing on the in-between. And that's a problem. And so every single time that you sell, the rich sells the idea of being in the middle class to the poor, knowing that's probably not going to happen, you create more of a dividing line. And so again, as much as people think that they control something like their job, it's like, no, you don't. You're hired by somebody else, correct? It's like, yes, I am. Therefore, you have no control as to whether you're going to stay in that job or whether it is that the job's going to stay open within itself. Because jobs don't. COVID was a great example of this. It's like you don't control everything, and because of that, there's a lot of people that lost their jobs and a lot of things that happened at that point. Where it's like that one thing that you thought you controlled and the thing that actually gave you some sort of peace or protection fell apart on you. So then you had to go figure out what it is you were going to do. So what kept you alive was your own survival tactics, right? Well, if you own your own business, you're like, okay, well then by that point I control the thing. It's like, well, no, you don't, because you don't control the ebbs and flows of what the market looks like and what people want and what people need, because you're in a competitive market. What are you providing that isn't being provided by somebody else? Everybody knows in business that if you want a good business, you got to find a good problem. Now, it's by this point in time, how many problems have we come to fix, especially with technology? Is we've come to fix a lot of problems, which means that like you're trying to get into some niche issues by this point. It's not like you're inventing a vacuum cleaner to clean the rug. Like that's done. Like we're done completely beyond that. Right. But at this point, most people that are starting to create their own businesses, it's either already competing with something that's really dense, or they're trying to create a brand new version of entertainment. And that requires a lot more creativity and banking on the fact that people would be entertained by the thing that it is you think is entertaining. And that's where you fall into this weird, awkward place of like, do you control the market and what it means for you to be in your business? What do you control? I control myself. All right, good.
Output.
Yeah. By that point, you are trying to figure out, okay, well, I guess I can just do my best in whatever it is that I'm doing, and then see what happens.
Yeah.
And because if your idea is that no, if I do A, B, and C, D will happen, that is control of something that you probably don't. And that's what lands us in a place of being frustrated. And we don't like that. At least people might like myself. I'm very analytical. So I don't like things not being math. So when things end up being art or science, this very testy kind of thing, it bothers me because I don't control that. Math I can control. I can tell you 2 + 2 = 4, and you can argue about as much as you like, and you can start talking about art and everything. It's like it doesn't really matter. We're in the math world right now. 2 + 2 = 4, and it makes me feel safe. I can control that.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that, it bothers me. I can't control that, and that's what leaves me in a place where I have to now have faith that everything's going to be okay, instead of knowing for a fact, written down, things are okay. And that's why it ends up turning into this whole my feelings versus what's actually happening. And that's why it's hard. It's hard to be a human being in the world, because of those things.
Yeah, so your topic on school, man, that tapped a nerve. That's what I came in here bitching to you.
Yeah.
I was like, this week I we had a panel at the Sober Living House that I know about, that's every other Thursday, and when the guy came to knock on my door at like 6:57 to tell me that the meeting's at 7, I was bitching about that. It's like, why am I so frustrated? But in terms of school, my goodness. Okay, I'm taking Accounting 101, Entrepreneurship, and Business Law. I get so frustrated, bro, because I'm in school. Why am I in school?
Sure.
Listen, I know the answer for me is that there's no real excuse for me not to just finish school. Yeah. It doesn't hurt me. It's not like I don't have to or I can't. It's just a matter of, why don't you just get it done, have the diploma, have that sort of edification, which, if you ask me, doesn't add any edification. Sure. Quality of product and service and customer service is your edification. But the point is the truth is let's just get down to the nitty gritty. My mom said, I have one dying wish, dude. If before I leave Earth or even after I leave Earth, I would just like you to get your degree. For no other reason, it'll just show that you have discipline. It'll just show that you can start something and finish it through. And dude, I'm like, okay, I'm 100 days sober now. Let me go back to school, right? Yeah. And I'm over here building a business for social media advertising and AI and e-commerce management, right? So we're talking about creating platforms on the internet that are so much further ahead than anything they're teaching in my classroom. Anything. Yeah. They're not even, it's ridiculous. So I'm sitting in this entrepreneurship class and they're talking about like, what is Indeed? And dude, it drives me nuts, right? And I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone. I'm saying that I have a lot of experience. And so to go back to those rooms and sit down and kind of have to sit here wondering, dude, I'm twiddling my thumbs in this 3-hour class when I could be doing something else. But then I go back to, what can I fucking be doing? Sure. What really would I be doing? Sure. Maybe another hour in the gym, maybe another 2 hours on the computer. So it's like, what am I angry about? I just need to calm down. But it's so frustrating. That's the whole school system, dude. And you heard it here, you hear it 1,000 times. They're so far behind. If they don't add AI, if they don't add new forms of technology and education and quicker, quicker to market strategies, they're already in the dust. And I don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm going to finish my fucking degree, but it's just frustrating, dude.
I like that you talk about that because I've been seeing it a lot more lately. This generation coming into it, it's by the next generation over, let's say like 20 years from now, you're going to see very, very clearly that people are going to be kind of like clocked out of this idea of higher education. And the reason why is because people are starting to notice that there's a lot of holes in the system itself. And they're asking the question, it's like, why am I here? Like, that's the main question. Why am I here? I was sold on it. But what was I sold on? Was I sold on a promise? Not really. I was more so sold on a dream. And it wasn't my dream. It was somebody else's dream. And people will ask the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And most people don't really know, for the most part. And when they do know, it's so specific. It's not necessarily based off of your experience. It's based off of just kind of some random thing that comes up that's usually based off of status or money. So say, for example, the most common ones are like, I want to be a fireman. I want to work in medicine. I want to be a police officer. politician. I want to be a veterinarian. These very specific things, right? But if I were to go around the room and ask people, or anybody in this room, any of these things, the answer is no. The fact of the matter is that 75% of all of us work jobs that are very different than any of those things. So when you have that dream of being something and then you don't become it, is because you lack a discipline to go into school? It's like, I don't think so. I think that time goes on and we end up realizing that it's not just 5 choices that it is that we should be having. It's the choices of, we have multiple choices when it comes down to what it is that we can become or what it is that we want. Especially in the day of technology. Technology has cracked this open so much bigger than the pipe dream of the 90s, that what it is that we can have, as we have more options than what my parents had, that's for sure. And so because like my parents didn't have Uber or stay-at-home mom type of working on the internet type of thing, that wasn't existent on that point. The only thing they had at that point was you go to school. It's the only way that you're going to be able to get a decent degree. And what they were banking on was that you're going to get a degree to sit in an office. Most people in this generation alone understand, I don't want to sit in an office. That doesn't sound like a job. It sounds like slavery, some form of it. And so the next generation is going to understand that even deeper, to say, I don't want to do any of those things. In fact, most of your office jobs are now automated. They don't even exist anymore. So as technology pushes the future forward, it's up to us as a generation to be able to realize that's not really working as well as it did at a certain point. And so because of that, I need to fast forward my mindset and think, okay, so then what is going to be the future of what it is that we can do? Especially in the age of AI, it's going to be starting to cut down even more jobs, a lot of creative jobs too. So when those things start cutting out, it's like, what is your actual worth as a human being? That's the real question. What are you going to be used for this world that will have some issues or some need of something? What can you do? This is the reason why entertainment ends up becoming one of the biggest mediums that people lean into, is because that requires creativity of the brain. It requires for you to create something from the ground up, and humans being just humans and being interesting, right? But when it comes down to just getting mundane things done, it's not needed as much anymore. Right,
and I don't want to cut you off here, but this is very important. I want a quick disclaimer. I'm not saying that I don't believe in education. I believe in continual self-education in perpetuity, forever. We're going to keep learning. I suggest that you keep buying education on the things that matter to you. I just don't see how sitting in a fucking classroom listening to a guy who barely knows how to even use his MacBook Pro tell me about how to run a business in this new digital era. And also, the beauty about AI, though, now that we're talking about it, you're tapping into my this is the shit I like. Right? But with AI, the importance here is to get, it's like with the .com bubble, right? You hear it like when that first came out, it's not that yes, it is going to remove a lot of jobs, but the ability to manipulate the AI is what's going to make you valuable, right? That's what you said. What's the service that you can provide? Well, I'm going to be a master prompt engineer, a master, funnel creator, funnel landing page creator, digital e-commerce, ad auditor, right? All these things that I can do with AI, or even like software developer, right? SaaS, you can sell SaaS with AI. You can create your own SaaS. So there's so many things, and as you can see, I'm a little fucking nerd when it comes to these things, right? But when you're talking about the Industrial Revolution and like, you know what I mean? Like that, it's just frustrating. Oh, this one frustrates me too. I tell my mom, like, hey, you're telling me to go to school. I understand why, because you want me to get and she keeps saying you're going to get a nice job in the future. I'm like, I already own my business. Like your mentality is for me, or you're subliminally saying, right, that you don't believe that this is going to take off, or you don't believe that it's going to be successful, and that I'm going to end up working for someone else. Well, I'm not saying that working for someone else isn't good. No, I mean, is it bad? It's great, actually. That's how I got to where I'm at, because I learned how to sell software, digital marketing, how to run an agency, because I saw it from the inside of an agency. But now I want to try it for myself. And even if I was to fuck up, which I shouldn't even be saying if, but for whatever reason, then I go back to another job and then I try again. But my mentality is not to have those jobs. So you're right. That's why my frustration lies there. It's like, why do I have to sit here? But, if your mother's asking you for one thing and the thing isn't even that hard, right, and it's challenging, why would I not do it?
Sure. I remember, and I'm not sure if I shared this with you, but I was terrible in high school. I had the same angst that you have, but obviously it was very much in high school. And I think the reason why is because high school wasn't my life. we were going to church a lot, and I was connected with a lot of people outside of high school. It wasn't even my only social circle. And so in so many different ways, like, I understood very clearly that there's a world that exists outside of this, this little cage here.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I was thinking about how big the world is, that what actually matters here and how much is it going to affect me. So in the long run, I just hated high school. I just never did any homework, and I barely skimmed by. A lot of the times I was just failing a lot of classes. It's not because I didn't know what was happening or know the classes. I would literally pass finals just to pass the class. And so it wasn't that I didn't know what was happening. It was more so that I didn't feel it necessary to put all that work in. It was a waste of time to me. Well, when I got to my senior year, it was very, 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 it was a fact that I was not going to be able to walk. Chances are I was probably going to have to go through another summer and just to be able to collect credits so I can collect my degree. And I was kind of okay with that until I started thinking about it a little bit more, and it became a conviction unto myself that my mom's firstborn, being me, wouldn't walk, and I put that upon myself to say that bothers me, that would be on my mother, and because it wouldn't be on me, I wouldn't care. But it would be on my mother, and that bothered me. So my senior year, I worked very hard just to be able to pass enough to be able to walk. And but I realized something very specific over the time that it is that I've been there. My mom has always told me how proud of me she is. And she's said multiple times, like, man, I'm so blessed that I get to have you and I have one sister, you and your sister Jasmine, that you guys, I'm just so blessed you guys never gave me the serious trouble. I'm just so blessed that I can sleep well at night knowing that you guys are safe and making good decisions. Not once has she thanked me for graduating and walking at time. Yeah. So when I think about the longevity of just time in general, and what people prioritize, the fact of the matter is that people's priorities change based off of experiences, and all depending on what these things are compared to. If the only thing that you do substantially is go to college, then yeah, she should be proud of you. But the fact of the matter is that you being in recovery and changing your life and moving towards something so much bigger than that, I think you give yourself a lot more options of being more dynamic of an individual and way more of a valuable person in the long run. And so say if you get to a point to where you create or invent or push something so much more valuable than what it is you could have learned because you created something, and you help people or change lives one way or another, I don't think that your mom's going to get to a point to say, and the most important thing I think you've ever done was graduate college. And so I think, again, it's almost as if what it feels is, and not just to your mother, but to everybody. People put such specific caps on us based off of their limitations in their own lives and what they could have done or couldn't have done, or what it is they think we're capable of doing or not capable of doing. So they only expect the very next thing out of us. That's it. When a lot of the times we expect something way bigger than the next thing in front of myself. So when somebody gets sober and they're saying to themselves, man, I think we talked about this before, at least I'm not dead. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But man, there's so much more that you can be asking of yourself. And we know that if you just bank on that, imagine this. Imagine you get a college degree and then you just kick up your feet and you don't do anything after that. It's I did it, Mom. Right. Aren't you happy? And the answer is going to be no. Which means that her happiness is not banked on you. And again, I'm trying not to disrespect your mother, but we're talking about this. But this is a people thing. Yeah. But when people bank on somebody else to give them happiness or satisfaction or peace or anything of the sort, that is, like I was talking about a little earlier, expectation. Mm-hmm. Controlling something that has nothing to do with you. You make yourself be more peaceful with yourself by controlling only yourself. Mm-hmm. What can you be proud of somebody else doing? Just movement. It doesn't really matter where you're going, as long as it's movement towards something positive or good. Sounds great. And it's funny, it's in our nerd world, you explained a nerd version of what the rock star kids go through. You're not going to make any real money playing guitar on stage. Get a real job, right? Yeah. Oh, you're not going to make any real money walking around with that camera. Get a real job, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like these stories and these movies that we watch all the time about all these people that are creatives and are looking towards something big or different or just out of the box. And then you always have a parent or somebody that's saying, you're never going to get a job doing that. And the fact of the matter is, no, you don't know that. And the reason why you don't know that is because you live in a world in which that was your biggest insecurity, or maybe that was your only security. And so based off of your experience, you think that I have to somehow either copy that or I have to do better than you based off of how it is that you think the world should run. So that becomes an extra pressure on ourselves to be able to say, I need to make this person happy. I'll never forget one time Miggs Whiskey, who's an artist, and he hangs out with us often. He's part of our crew here. He wants his music. He's just great music, and he's going to continue to build his music. And I remember him telling me that, what's really important is that, like, I remember for a really long time I kept on saying, it's like, the only thing I need to do for my family and for my mom is to get her a house. Like, that's my goal, is get her a house, because I want to make my mom proud and make her happy with that. And he finally heard somebody say something along the lines of, like, it's not healthy for you to assume what people want out of you. You should probably ask them what it is that they want. And so he did. He went to ask his mom. He said, Mom, what would be the thing that you really want? Like, what would be the best thing you could possibly have? And because Mix is in recovery, she said, oh, I'm good. Like, you being sober and staying sober is literally like my dream come true. Being able to hear that from somebody and understand, like, what it is that you live for and what it is that you can do for somebody is just like, it requires a conversation. It requires an understanding of where it is that we're at when our relationship with people and what they expect out of us, and vice versa. What's going to make you happy? And if that has a lot to do with so much more pressure than it needs to be, well, then they may have a misunderstanding of what success means themselves. And they may have a misunderstanding of what happiness means themselves. And when we take that upon ourselves, it becomes a certain form of slavery as well. Because by that point, I'm doing something I don't want to do. I'm doing something because somebody's forcing me to do it. And that definitely creates a discontent, because you didn't choose for it to happen. Not saying specifically for you, but anybody who goes through this type of feeling, I didn't choose for this to happen. I'm doing this because somebody's forced me to do that. Most people in the beginning of recovery feel like that. Like, got to make your bed, got to start eating a little better, you got this and that. Like, I don't want to do any of these things. Right. But then eventually you end up finding out why it's important, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a cap to that. Because when it comes down to the basic fundamentals, yeah, you need to brush your teeth. You need to be hygienic. You're part of the world, You need to be, you need to be like kind of connect to that. But anything beyond that, when it comes down to your freedom of who you become after that, when it comes to the idea of success, you need to be making the decision on that. Even God doesn't control us like that. That's why I find it to be so fundamental for people to understand is God doesn't control. That's when people ask, it's like, oh, I want God's will. Wonder what God wants me to do. He wants you to talk about Him. That's what He wants you to do. No, specifics. Oh, I don't think He has specifics for you. I think He's leaving it up to you to say, like, wherever you go, as long as you're talking about me, we're good. And so the idea of people saying, no, you need to do this, and that, or like, dude, even God doesn't do that, which means that you're trying to play such a bigger role than where it is that you stand. And so I can understand if things like this end up getting to a point where they might boil over, or get to a point where you get frustrated, because you end up asking yourself, why am I here? Mm-hmm. And you get to a point where you cap it out and you cut yourself at the knees about how you explain that to yourself and try to digest that, because you just like, it's frustrating the deeper you go, because as deep as you can go is exactly what I've told you, which is that if you want to go deep into it, the reason why you're doing it is because of something on the outside force of things. But when you think about the details of what that looks like, you have too many examples of people that have dropped out of college and have become literally billionaires. Too many examples of that for somebody to say in a finite kind of way, do this will happen. This is the best way of going about something. So for myself, and I'm sure anybody listening to me sounds like I don't support school. It's not true. I believe that if people get to a point to where they know what they want and it requires an education to do that, then you get your education. It's as simple as that. If it's something that like you really don't know what you're wanting to do and what it is you're doing with yourself, I'm actually not that person that's super in a hurry about things in general in life, because I don't get to control what's happening. You can be in college and get hit by a bus and then you're dead, and then it's like, oh, because what was all that time for? What were you doing? And so like when somebody says that, oh, I want to be a doctor, oh, that requires a lot of school, so you're going to go to school. That's on your path, guaranteed, if that's what you're going to be. Well, but other people that are just like, go to school, like why? It's because you're going to have more options and things. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. Right. And I have no idea if it's going to be connected to what I actually end up doing. So I'm not anti-school, not at all. It's just that when it comes down to balancing these things out, it's a lot of money that goes into going to school for a chance that you may not actually do something connected to it at all. Yeah, that's true. And oh man, I could keep on going with this one, because but anyways, let's talk about, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I love your input. Let's talk about something that you're currently dealing with in life, a current struggle. Mm-hmm. What is it? And then what are you going to do to kind of work on it for next week? Current struggle. I think a current struggle would probably be something like time management of what it is that I'm trying to do and trying to fit in. You probably would agree with this or relate to this, is that it doesn't feel like there's enough time in the day to do everything it is that I want to do. And when it is that I have enough time to do something, I won't do it. So say, for example, today I had a groggy day, right? Groggy day. What that means is that I have time to do something. The things that it is that I can do have a lot to do with my computer, whether it be editing, promoting, whatever it is. I have a photography business, right? It always sits at the forefront of my mind of like, what could you be doing right now? I could be growing my photography business. Well, I can't stand the growth process of a business in any way, shape, or form. It's just not fun for me. So I'd rather just take the pictures and have somebody else grow my business. Well, I don't have that luxury, so I have to grow my business. Well, I know how to do the pieces of it. Maybe not well, but I know how to do the pieces of it. Promote myself and things of the sort. But so when I don't have enough time in the day to promote myself. But when I have that day, I don't take that time to be able to do that. And so the idea of time management has more so to do with being able to plan correctly and then being able to just execute on what it is that I plan. I have a to-do list, I have a calendar, I have everything it is that I need to be able to be efficient at something. But when the day comes, and it's just like, I have a couple things that are on my list right now that are overdue. And they've been overdue for a couple days because I keep on snoozing, if you would, and I just don't want to do it right now.
Yeah.
That is probably one of my biggest struggles. And it has a lot to do with me being just like settling down, complacency, settling down in my place of, I'm fine right now. I am content for sure. I am very happy with things. I could die tomorrow and be like, yeah, things are great. Like my life is good. But there is still this like lack of urgency to do something, investing in my next venture, investing in my future, if you would. And so that's probably a bigger struggle that I have right now. And how I'm combating against it is I have to just start the thing up. Start it up again. I'm like, all right, get back on task. And literally everything affects me when it comes to that. From my exercise to my eating habits to my sleeping habits on a base, and then from that on a foundation, and then after that, the foundation is spiritual healthiness. And then after that is your physical and mental healthiness, and then after that is my social healthiness, and then after that is everything else. Yeah. Everything else being the things I'm talking about. So it's like if those things aren't in place, then the whole thing's falling apart. And the thing that I usually don't manage well is being disciplined enough to keep myself in the gym daily, and also making sure my eating and sleeping habits are good. So those things being off, I feel like the whole entire thing starts to fall apart. So how am I going to fix it is just do it despite the feeling. Right?
Yeah, that's everything, right?
Yeah.
Now, man, you said like 3 things there that I do, need to work on too. But like, what was one thing that I struggled this week? I got hurt in jiu-jitsu. That was like 3 weeks ago, dude. Oh. And it's still.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
It's so frustrating. Like I gained. And this is going to sound very petty, but I gained 3 pounds, like 3-4 pounds, and I'm pissed. Yeah. And then when I'm at the gym, I'm like, at first I was like, I'm going to continue eating right. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to work upper body and like, everything other than the ankle. Yeah. And I was doing great. And then I started to cut a little corner here, cut a little corner there. So that's kind of frustrating, but I can get back on track. I've done that. That one is not major. The one for me that's major, dude, is showing up on time to whatever. It doesn't matter. Like IOP in the morning. I need to be there. What else do I have to be doing? It's at 9 o'clock. It's not like it's 6 in the morning. It's 9 o'clock. Right. But then I'm over here waking up at 8:40 when it's a 30-minute drive and just like if that type of attitude, I don't like that about me.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
I love that subject so much.
You know what I mean? I don't like that type of attitude because that will lead to other things. And it's not about the problem, it's the principle of what it is. But then also, lastly, is sleep and waking up. For some reason, I want to hear what you have to say about this. I have this idea that I need to wake up at 6 a.m. because I can do a lot more things if I just wake up earlier. And any elite, successful, in terms of even health and mental, like they will tell you waking up early, early bird gets the worm. But then I have a therapist, and of course your therapist is going to side with you on some things. Sure. The saying like, why do you need to wake up at that time? Right now in this chapter of your life, why do you need to do that? And every day that you say you're going to do that and then you don't, you beat yourself up at the beginning of the day. It starts your day off with a loss, even before you make your bed. So you're already 1-1 when you wake up. So it's like, fuck, man. That one's bugging me too. I just don't like waking up early. Who does, right? Nobody likes cold showers and shit like that, but that's one. So I don't know.
I think so much of that, because that subject is really fun for me. The first thing I want to hit on is when you talk about when you're showing up late to everything. I had talked with somebody probably about like last year, I think, when I had that deep talk with somebody about that, and it was really easy. It was just like the reason why you don't show up to things is because you don't care about them, and if you don't really like make peace with that, then you're gonna continue to live in this weird like awkward lie to yourself of like, oh, the reason why I'm late is because, I'm just, not sleeping, or this is, you come with all kinds of excuses. Like, no, you don't prioritize it. Because I guarantee you that if you were trying to go to a concert or doing something that you're really excited about, you would not just be there on time, you would be early. Guaranteed. Because that's how we are. We are as human beings, when we love something, we're there early. If a video game is coming out in the middle of the night, I'm not entirely sure if you were this nerdy, because I definitely was. And
I was there for Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah. I was there midnight release for something. You're there for movies when they're there before anybody else was, standing in line for literally hours.
Yeah.
We have the capacity to be able to be there early, but
Yeah.
you have to care about it. You have to be really excited about it. Fact of the matter is that most people are not excited about their lives in general. They're not excited about their work. They're not excited about going to the gym. They're not excited about doing something that's mentally healthy. They're not excited about any of these things. And so because of that, as Chief would say, his mom would tell him, hey, get up, and he would say, for what? It's so simple and so small, but it to me speaks so much volume. Get up. What for? If you don't have like a reason to live and a reason to get up, and you don't like your life, then yeah, stay asleep. You have nothing to look forward to. And so the fact of the matter is that we do that though on a microdose, if you would. Mm-hmm. We relate to everything. We don't want to get up early for whatever the reason is, and like we just kind of snooze life because there's nothing to look forward to.
That's what's making me angry.
Yeah, I know.
It's not. You're right. It's that I'm starting to lose the interest to want to be an IOP.
That's right.
And then I was trying to dissect why. Mm-hmm. Why is it? Yeah. I was loving IOP before. Mm-hmm. I think it's because this is an excuse, whatever.
Sure.
But I think it's just because at this point I'm almost out. It's just 30 more days.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that it's a healthy thing for me. Mm-hmm. But like everybody that I was in with in rehab or even IOP, they've already left. So it's a whole new batch of people. I don't have the connections there anymore.
Sure.
It's just a whole bunch of people. I just show up and sit down and listen and then leave.
Yeah.
And that's a bad attitude, and I don't like the attitude part of it. Like, no, you're looking at this wrong. This is for your health. This is for you to be in the environment. So I'm more angry with what you just said than the actual me being late.
Right, because that's the truth of it is when you get to the truth of it, it's like, ooh, that's frustrating. I don't like that trait about myself. Right?
Yeah, I'm scared because it could lead me down a bad.
Right, and that's kind of the main. That's why you have to find the purpose in why you do what you do. Right. So in this specific stage and where you're at in your IOP, you got 30 days left. Right. I work primarily with people in the sober living IOP stage of their recovery, and that's what usually happens. People that sit here past 30 days, 60 days, they get into that point where they start getting like, why am I here? Right? They still show up and they have a sour face on and everything, but like there's like, why am I here? I'm starting to lose the reason as to why I'm here. It's like, well, you're not here anymore for the specific things you were here when you first got here, which is like, I need to learn new things. Right? It's not about that anymore. It's not about learning new things. It's about that stage in your life where you do something because one, you have to.
Yeah.
And the second piece of that is being able to do that with joy.
Yeah.
That piece right there, specifically, do you think that you'll be spending most of your life learning new things or doing things you've already been doing?
Doing things you've already been doing.
So the whole learning process, that first month where you're learning new recovery and life things, like, yeah, that's the bare minimum of what life is. What you really need to learn is what it means to sit with the things that are not new, sit with the things that are same old, that aren't exciting anymore, that get your endorphins shooting out in your brains, dopamine shooting out in your brains. You want to get to a place where not only do you make peace with the fact that you're going to do the same thing, but then beyond that, can you be joyful about that? That's the real challenge. Because if you can do that, the rest of your life will be more peaceful. Because if it is about the excitement of something new, learning something new, being around new people, 30 days is not a long time. Being able to do that with people, if that's what you think your life's going to be about, you're going to burn out quick. It's going to I'll give you a year, you'll relapse. And the reason why is because your whole entire life is now contingent on this idea that it has to be new, it has to be exciting. See, you may not explain it that way, but that's what's happening. What's happening is that the things that are fun for me, that's what gets my life going. Like variety is a spice of life kind of thing, right? Well, the spices are expensive. To be able to think to yourself that you'll have nothing but spice through your whole entire life, that's ludicrous to think that. In fact, The people that usually land in that place are people that are really rich, that end up jumping from one addiction to the next because they need something new to be able to fulfill them, versus the people that are ridiculously content and have nothing, have learned to live with nothing. That's real life. Real life is being able to say, I have this, I've earned this, and now I'm now responsible for watering it. That's real life. So when you're in that stage, which it sounds like you may be in that stage, it's what's important is that now you're proving to yourself that, one, you're going to do it, which it sounds like you are, so you're going to do it. But now again, if you want to enjoy your life, prove that you can actually have joy in that. And the process of that really is being able to look at it and practicing gratefulness, is being able to look at something and say, even if it's a new person, and say, wow, what an opportunity for me to be able to meet new people. There are people out there in the world that never get to meet new people at all. And they're sitting with the same exact people all the time, learning a certain lesson over again that you probably have already learned before. It'd be like, wow, what a blessing for me to be able to get a rehash on a certain lesson where people out there are learning new things and they forget about them. Yeah. Or being able to be consistently in a place and it's paid for by insurance, or you have the support for being there, where there's people out there that have no option to be able to do that. The ability to be able to see these things is important. The second part of that is the word temporary. All things are temporary. All things. So feelings are temporary. Even specific statuses that you have are temporary. So to be able to look at your life as, I'm only living in today. If I died tomorrow, would it be like, oh man, my life sucked because I was still in IOP? No, you lived a full life, a great life. Your life is full of a lot of great things, of growth and things that were once impossible. Beyond your wildest dreams is where you're at right now, if not times 3. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at your life in the perspective of like success and where you're at, again, you're living too far into the future instead of living in right now. Mm-hmm. If you continue to build that habit of living in the future, that'll never stop. You're going to continuously to feel like this when you're living at your home, by yourself, financially stable, business moving, in a good relationship, healthy body, healthy spiritual state. And if you still have that mentality of thinking about tomorrow and next year, you're going to be just as discontent then than you are right now. It's not the things that you build for yourself and what it is you have. It's your mentality and your perspective on how you see today. So that is a building process. You don't get that. You don't buy that. That is a building process. You have to prove that. And I think we've talked about this before in a podcast. 1 month is nothing. 2 months is barely something. 3 months is that point where you break. And that's that point where you like really, because your old feelings start coming back and who you actually are starts coming back. That's when the real work starts happening. Because by that point, you're given the real challenge of what are you actually going to do when you are actually here again? Not the new you that is excited about life and all these new things that are happening. No. The you, the one that you've been living with for the longest time. When that person comes back, what do you do at that point? Do you choose to go backwards or do you choose to go forwards? Yeah. You're sitting in the crossroad right now and you're saying, where do I want to go from that point? You know what you have to do, but eventually if it gets to a point to where you don't put some joy into your life on your day-to-day and some gratefulness, you're going to snap. And when you snap, you'll go backwards. And it's those types of things that are common. That's why what I really want to tell you is that what you're going through is super common. Yeah. What you're going through happens to literally every single person and a lot of people not even in recovery. It's just a life thing. And so if you can't make peace with that, then you're going to continue to struggle like everybody else struggles.
That's beautiful, man, that you say that, because that is what I was thinking about the other day. I'm like, why do I have this discontentment? Like, and things are going pretty good, you know? I was wondering exactly what you just said. I was like, well, what does this look like in 10 years when I do have everything that I wanted right now? Will I still feel this way? So that's good. I need to address how do I work on that, which is just continuing to do it with a positive mindset, but maybe read a book on.
Get education on it too. Like being able to like tap into that stuff is like, it's cool because you end up finding out that like, despite your feelings, if I didn't get to hear you saying any of these things and I just got to see it in writing, what it is you're doing on a daily basis, the trajectory of your life is going great. So like, what's stopping you from seeing that? You know, it's just your feeling about how much you just like. Can we fast forward this, please? I don't know if you ever remember that movie Click from Adam Sandler.
Dude, oh my gosh!
So it was the message of that movie was great. It's like you keep on trying to fast forward through the boring things in life because you're trying to get to the exciting stuff, but then eventually what happens is you pass your whole entire life up because there's nothing else. Life is about the boring stuff. It is about the growth and the moving through that and being able to understand and appreciate the fact that I actually worked very hard to be where I am today. Pat yourself on the back and keep going. So like all of these pieces come together. It's like, wow, like how did you get to where you are right now, Eli? You seem like you have like so many great things going on. How did you do that? It's like a lot of hard work, a lot of persistence, a lot of gratefulness. I had to do a lot of prayer. I had to lean into a God that thought I was doing a great job, and I had to believe that that took a lot of work. It's not easy. And if it was easy, the world would be a happy place. It's not. People are mad and sad and terrible and depressed, and they just don't like their lives. So that's what I'm saying. What you're going through is normal. But to combat against that, it requires work. And if you don't want to do the work, then you'll get pretty subpar life. Just again, like everybody else. Or you can put in the work and you can actually find some peace, real peace and content in your life, and say, I like my life. I like what I'm doing. I'm doing great things, and I'm looking forward to what it looks like in the long run. I'm looking forward to the next stage and the next stage. And it's going to be cool, just as cool as this one. And if you have that mindset, you wake up every day being like, I'm actually excited about my day. It's like, why is that? It's because I actually learn to love my day to day, not fall in love with my dreams. Yeah. I fell in love with today when I'm actually awake. And those are important things that, again, every single person has to learn. If they don't, then they're going to be miserable.
Man, if we had a bomb dropper in here, dude, this podcast was so powerful. I think that's going to help a lot of people. If you're listening today, you know what I mean? Yeah. Don't fall in love with the dream to dream. Fall in love with your day to day.
Yeah, your life.
Right? Mm-hmm. And man, I seriously, I appreciate you so much for this conversation. See, I love this style, this format, right? We came in, we kind of talked about our struggles. Yeah. That's great, because I feel like a lot of people are, like you said, dealing with these things. Some exciting news before we hop off here. Yeah. Okay. Next week, we have Erin coming in.
It's going to be cool.
She's the alumni manager for Northbound Treatment Center. And then the following week after that, we have Swinging Johnny. Swinging Johnny, that's his IG name. Yeah. He's a model for Sullen Clothing. Right. So we've been able to get him on this podcast. And more often you're going to start seeing more guests come on here. And we're going to be having two formats. One is an interview style format, and then the other will be discussions just like this, or Bible lessons that we talk about. So I'm so happy this thing is actually growing. You're right, dude. What am I actually tripping about? Yeah. Right? Sometimes, it's going great. For real. Yeah, what am I actually frustrated about? I just want to say thank you, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
Because you're awesome. Seriously, I mean that. And then
I really do. I want to tell you that I love your transparency. That's what makes it really important to be able to even dive into subjects like this. If you were not transparent and your walls were way too high, it's not possible to have these types of conversations. And so when you're able to do that, it makes life so much easier to be able to take direction or just think with somebody out loud. It's necessary to be transparent and be vulnerable. So I do congratulate you on your ability to be vulnerable. And I would say that if you continue to do that and continue to open your ears to wisdom and the discernment between wisdom and people just giving you random advice, then you're gonna keep growing way more than you already have right now. And you've already done such a great job.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
With that being said, man, do you have any announcements? I did just mention the two guests. We are, if you haven't followed us on our Instagram, it's at Set Free Speech. You're going to start seeing a lot more content there. I want to start ramping that up. The YouTube, we're already live, right? At Set Free Speech on YouTube.
Yes.
Well, how do they find it? At Set Free Anaheim, that's the page, and then Set Free Speech is the playlist where they find it. So
I've been making it a habit of just sending people to the website, because from that point it's almost like a landing page. So setfreeanaheim.com, you'll find everything there, including the direct link to our YouTube channel, which is where our Set Free Speech is on. Also the actual podcast itself, if you're trying to share it with other people. Yeah. Our schedule about what it is that we do throughout the week. Okay. And yeah, there's all kinds of other things there too, for Magic House related things of the sort.
Let them know.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to continue. What I want to do on that website too is open up a whole entire page that's just for Set Free Speech. Yeah. And whether that be merchandise that we're thinking about doing, or having a schedule about what it is that we're looking for, or anything, information. But that's why, again, I've been getting people to just go to setfreeanaheim.com. Setfreeanaheim.com is where you want to start. You'll find anything you need for the most part there. And so if you need a YouTube to be able to find these videos, it's there. You need to find the podcast itself. It's there as well. So
what about Sunday? What's happening Sunday?
So this specific Sunday, and if I do this correctly, then this episode will be released on Saturday, which means that tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this, on October 1st, on Sunday, this Sunday specifically, is we're going to be having fentanyl awareness. We'll say a party gathering, and we have a bunch of vendors that are there, have some speakers talking about fentanyl and how it's destroying this world. a lot of testimonies and things of the sort, a lot of music, a lot of food, a lot of connection with people. There's going to be a tattoo artist here, like there's all kinds of things that are happening the way that we usually do our parties or Set Free Anaheim stuff. So the way that I would explain it honestly is like we do a Sunday night recovery every Sunday. It's just a slightly bigger version of that.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
I think he's being very, very courteous. It like takes up this whole street.
Yeah.
Last time. But yeah, if you guys want to join for fellowship, come visit 1567 West Embassy Street, Anaheim, California for the fentanyl awareness event. If you want to just come find fellowship, if you want to come hear stories, or if you've dealt with someone in or lost someone to fentanyl. I think that a lot of us have. I personally have.
I have.
It's absolutely terrible, and just showing your support here, maybe you can meet someone who has dealt with that, and you guys could meet and like talk, and that is healthy. So aside from that, you got anything else?
No, not in my no. Like I said, everything it is that we do, show up to Bible studies and stuff. You're trying to learn some things,
right?
And setfreeanaheim.com, you'll see it there. I teach Bible studies on Mondays and Fridays, and so if you show up then, get your Bible study on.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Okay, wonderful. And share the name, Set Free Speech. Share the name. We would appreciate it. We're not running ads. We're not selling any merch at this moment. Now what we're doing is really just trying to grow this thing. If you find any sort of value in it, all I ask, right, is that you just share it with one person.
Yeah.
You just not even share it to their phone. Just say, hey, have you heard of Set Free Speech?
Yeah.
We would truly appreciate that because we're trying to grow this thing. We love you guys.
Yes.
And with that said, let's sign off, my brother.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Yes, sir.